Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our roundup of RootsTech 2025, all of the big announcements that were made last week at RootsTech out in Salt Lake City. Thank you for joining me. My name is Amy Johnson-Crow, and I gotta tell you, there were some really big announcements last week at RootsTech. I was fortunate enough to be able to be there in person. I will say, if you've never been to RootsTech in person before, I will say it's exhausting. It is absolutely, it's exhilarating, exciting, and exhausting all at the same time. So, but I do want to welcome you as we're going through some of these announcements. Hey, as we are getting started, let me know in the chat where you are tuning in from. I know people at RootsTech, they were from all over. I mean, not only just all over the United States, there were people there from literally all over the world. It was really, really cool to see. So let me go ahead. I will say, little heads up, I'm trying out some new live streaming software right now, a little bit different than what I have used in the past. So fingers crossed that all of the technology works. Yeah, technology is great when it works, and we're going to hope that it stays that way. So let me go ahead without any further ado. Let's go ahead and dive into the first big group of announcements, and those would be the ones from Ancestry. No surprise that Ancestry had some big announcements, as a lot of people, a lot of companies did out at RootsTech last week. Hey, Joseph, glad to see you here from Brooklyn, New York, and Brian is watching from Kansas. Got people, Cheryl is from Denver, Indiana. I did not know that there was a Denver, Indiana. That's pretty cool. And I need to remember that there is a delay between me talking and you seeing what's coming through. So all of a sudden I'm seeing all these comments. I need to remember that. Yeah, Diane from South Carolina says that she attended a few such sessions virtually. Cassie's watching from the Columbus, Ohio area. Hey, neighbor. Janice from Anchorage, Alaska, and John from Wabash, Indiana. Now, I do know where Wabash, Indiana is. I do know that. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about probably the biggest announcement that Ancestry made at RootsTech last week, and that is with something called networks. Now, at first, you might think, well, okay, networks, we already have trees. What is this networks thing? Well, networks is really a different way of thinking about a tree. Historically speaking, traditionally speaking, when we have built a tree, it has been based on some sort of family relationship, either biology, adoptions, in-laws, those shirt-tail cousins, but there's been some sort of family relationship. That's how we've been building trees like forever. Well, networks takes that tree concept, but instead of it having to be related, I wish I had intended that pun, but instead of having this tree based around a family, it can actually be a tree of unrelated people. So think for a moment about how you could use that in your genealogy. Well, what if you are researching a church congregation that back in the early 1800s, this entire church congregation from, say, a little tiny place in Pennsylvania, they got up and moved to another tiny little place in southeastern Ohio, like some of my ancestors did. You know, it would be really handy to be able to have all of those unrelated people together in one tree. And that's what networks is doing. It's giving us an easy way to put unrelated people in one particular group, one particular network. So you could think about this for church congregations. You could think about for, say, Army regiments that maybe your ancestors served in the 1st Ohio Heavy Artillery, like mine did. Maybe I want to research people who served in the same company that he did. You could think about this. I could see this being really handy for using when you are researching enslaved persons. So who were the people who were enslaved in a particular location, or who were enslaved by a particular person? So being able to have all of those people together. You could think about it for classmates. You could think about it for people who all worked at the same location, all worked for the same company. I could see this being really handy for something like a one-place study, where you are diving down and really researching people in one specific location, regardless of how they may or may not be related. But the networks gives you a way to put them all together in one tree, for lack of a better word. Okay, so this is kind of cool. I do see a lot of good applications for this. Now, to start a tree, at least right now, to start a tree, to start a network, you start with somebody in one of your trees and you attach them to a network that you create. And you can create more than one network. You can have several. I have not seen a limit on how many you can have, but I know you can have more than one. So we'll just leave it at that for now. So you take somebody in one of your trees and you can add them to a network that you create. Right now, even if that tree that they came from is public, the network is private. So right now, only you can see the networks that you're creating, which is kind of a bummer, because I think that one of the really cool things that you would be able to do with a network is have it be public and invite collaboration, especially if you're thinking about something like classmates or something like that, where you're wanting more input from other people. But right now, networks are private. My understanding is that they are working to give you the option of, when you create a network, either leaving it private or making it public. That is a feature that they are adding down the road. So thinking about all the different things that they're going to be adding, I think it is important to note that right now, Networks is still in beta, which means they're still testing it, they're still finding glitches, they're still going to be adding features to it. And at least while it's still in beta, it is only available through a Pro Tools add-on subscription, which right now I believe is $10 a month on top of your regular Ancestry subscription. Now, I've heard Krista Cowan say that Networks is supposed to come out of Pro Tools only once it comes out of beta. When I talked to a woman at the Ancestry booth at RootsTech last week, she was absolutely not willing to commit to that. So I'm hoping that Krista is right in this, and that this particular feature, the Networks feature, will become available to all Ancestry subscribers once it comes out of beta. So, so crossing my fingers on that. Yeah, and Karen is absolutely correct that right now Networks is part of Pro Tools only. So you do have to have the Pro Tools add-on subscription in order to use Networks right now. Keep an eye on that. I don't have any sort of time frame on when they're expecting this to come out of beta. I would imagine it wouldn't be any sooner than the end of summer, because this is a different thing that they were thinking about. There are a couple of little features in Networks that I wish that they, and I'm kind of crossing my fingers, that they would roll out to regular trees. And that is, they've added almost like a sticky note feature. Because you know how sometimes as you're researching and you'll have an idea that you want to follow up on, or just something that you want to note down, they're adding that ability to make a better note sort of outside a profile. Because we can add notes to profiles right now, but there really isn't a good way to see all of the notes that we've created. But that's sort of built in with networks. And I wish, and I'm kind of crossing my fingers, that that feature becomes available over on just the regular tree part of things. So Mary Ann asks, will you do some sort of tutorial or guide on it? I don't fully understand it, I guess. You know, Mariana, I've been thinking about doing that, and as I've been playing with networks, I've actually had some ideas of some other things that we can do. So Mariana and others, if you're interested in, if you would be interested in a video on networks and some possible alternates to networks, let me know in the comments and I'll see what I can do. All right. So, yeah, networks, it could be fun. It could be fun. Something else that I didn't see a lot of attention paid to in terms of big announcements, but they did talk about this at the Ancestry booth, and that is a feature that they're working on to auto-cluster DNA. So, sorry guys, still no chromosome browser. It's not coming. The chromosome browser from Ancestry DNA, not going to happen. It just isn't. But one thing that they are talking about, and it's supposed to be released later this year, is something like auto-cluster your Ancestry DNA results. If you've ever worked with the leads method, and you might have seen something like this, a similar chart like this, say over on MyHeritage, where it'll take your matches and see, because you know some of your matches are going to be matches to each other, right? And we can already see that matches of matches on Ancestry DNA with Pro Tools. So we already can get a better handle on those matches of matches. But what the clustering is going to do is really put those matches of matches into groups. And that, I know that I've worked with that over on MyHeritage. It really is a good way of visualizing your matches and really helps you work with them much more effectively. Now, yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Diane. Diane says, I can't wait for auto cluster reports. I think this is going to be really helpful. I've got so many matches over on Ancestry DNA, and just sometimes the sheer volume of them, having a way to put them into clusters can really make the research a lot more efficient. So I'm very excited about this coming up. One thing that they did announce in the Ancestry booth when they were talking about the auto clusters coming, quote, later this year, they didn't have an exact time frame on that, and this is going to be part of Pro Tools, which I can almost understand this because for the very casual Ancestry DNA test taker, this could be sort of overkill. So I can kind of see this actually being behind Pro Tools, but I'm still really excited to see this come out. Yeah, my question earlier, Joseph says, yes, I definitely love a walkthrough of networks. Well, Joseph, I will see about putting one of those together. All right, we are zooming right along, guys. Yeah. And Joshua says, a lot of Irish DNA matches from one couple. Yeah, there's a woman who I've been helping with her DNA, and I suspect that she's going to have one very large cluster. It's going to be interesting to see where that is. All right. Something else that didn't get a lot of attention at RootsTech, Ancestry just talked about this. As far as I can tell, they only talked about this during the Friday morning tech forum, and that is handwriting recognition. Now, we know that they used handwriting recognition to do the first pass of indexing the 1950 census. They did that a couple years ago when the 1950 census was released. So handwriting recognition is nothing new to Ancestry. They've also used it, I understand, on when they were indexing some French records. So this is something that Ancestry is accustomed to using. But what they talked about Friday morning at the tech forum was making handwriting recognition available to Ancestry subscribers when they upload a document. So you could upload a letter, a diary, maybe an original will, just some sort of handwritten document, and Ancestry will take a look at that handwritten document and give you a transcript of it. They did not give any sort of timetable as to when this feature will be available, nor did they say who it would be available for, if this was going to be for all Ancestry subscribers or if it was going to be something else that's behind Pro Tools. So not a lot of specificity on this announcement regarding handwriting recognition for Ancestry subscribers. It will also be interesting when it comes out to see how it compares with handwriting recognition programs that are already available to individuals such as Transcribus and any number of the generative AI programs that are out there. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that all shakes out. So kind of keep your eye out for Ancestry announcing maybe sometime this year. That was kind of the sense that I got, but again, no specificity on a timetable for Ancestry's handwriting recognition for the rest of us. Just taking a quick look at the chat to see if there's anything that... Oh, right. So, something else. And this has been up actually on at least on my Ancestry homepage, it's been up here for a couple of weeks, something about Ancestry Club 1890. And right now, it's not even available to sign up. Right now, you can just sign up to be on a wait list, basically, to get more information. But what they're saying on the page where you can sign up for emails to get more information when it becomes available, says, get ready for the ultimate genealogy experience created for our most passionate members. Club 1890 will give you access to personalized coaching, research sessions, VIP services, and premium perks only available to you. So honestly, I don't know any more than this. Just what this is basically all that they had about it. I didn't see any other literature about this Club 1890 in the Ancestry booth. So I really don't have any more details other than what is available on the website. But I will say that it sounds like they're going to be offering some sort of coaching, or I don't know. But I will say that if you are interested in genealogy coaching and you're wanting someone to help you through the research process, you have some sticky problems and you're just not sure where to turn next, you want to keep doing the research, you're just not sure what your next steps should be, I'm going to put in a shameless plug now for my own membership, which is called Generations Connection. So not only does it have access to a ton of workshops, webinars, and other programs that I've done, but we also have twice a month live Q&A sessions. In fact, we had one just this afternoon, and one of the questions that we had today was, I have a couple who were married in, I think it was Randolph County, Virginia in 1827. What steps should I take to try to identify their parents? They later moved out to Iowa. How do I make this connection so I can go back another generation? So we talked through what are the steps, what records should you be looking for, how can you access them, and really how can you analyze what it is that you're finding. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, some personalized genealogy coaching, and in a group setting where, talking genealogy with people for an hour, it's a good time. There's a link down in the description if you're watching this on YouTube, and I think that we can also get the link in the comments. So yeah, something to check out, Generations Connection. All right, moving along to a question, a product that when I asked in my Facebook group a couple weeks ago, I said, hey guys, I'm heading out to RootsTech. What questions do you want me to ask while I'm out there? And somebody said, hey, can you find out the status of Family Tree Maker 2024? And I'm looking at my watch, looking at my calendar, and it's like, yeah, this is March 2025. Whatever happened to Family Tree Maker 2024? Well, I stopped at the Family Tree Maker booth, talked to Mark, and said, hey, when's it going to be out? And he said that the beta testers for Family Tree Maker 2024 are really hitting it hard, and that basically it will be released when it's ready to be released. And I get that. It's I think all of us would rather they wait and have a really good piece of software rather than release it on some arbitrary date and then it have a lot of bugs in it. So if they're taking this time, and I have every confidence that they really are doing a good job with the beta testing, and that they will get it ready and get it launched just as soon as it really is a solid piece of software. Now, me being the person that I am, I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist asking. I said, so Family Tree Maker 2024, and it's now March of 2025. Are you going to rename it? No. They are still going to call it Family Tree Maker 2024, even though it'll be released probably in 2025. So there you go. Yeah. So that is the latest update on the increasingly misnamed Family Tree Maker 2024. All right, from Family Tree Maker, let's move on to Family Search, the sponsors of RootsTech. Now, I have to say, last year's RootsTech, Family Search had the biggest announcement, and that was their full text search. I kind of wondered how they were going to top that this year, and honestly, they didn't. I mean, how are you going to top full text search just 1 year later? But what Family Search is doing is they are really adding to the collections that are available through full text search, adding more languages that it is available in, obviously honing the processing and all of that, all while they are still committed to digitizing records from around the world. So they're looking at areas right now that don't have a lot of representation on Family Search, or frankly, any major genealogy platform. So Family Search really is, they might not have had the most exciting of announcements, but the fact that they are still doing what they're doing and the number of free records that are available, it is mind-boggling. It really is. So, like I said, nothing really new, nothing really earth-shattering this year from Family Search, but that doesn't mean that there was nothing, because all of the records that they're making available is just in and of itself is so exciting, especially considering that they are free. Free is a good word. Yeah, you're right, Karen. They were quiet this year. Also, kind of quiet this year, not with the biggest of announcements either in their main stage presentation or even in their tech summit or their tech forum presentation, was MyHeritage. Now, MyHeritage has had a few things out this year, like they had and it just left me what they call it, when you could upload one of your photos and they would animate it a little more. They had an early version last year, and then they late last fall they had a version that was a lot more animated, almost made it like a little 5-second movie, which was kind of fun. Except for, I'll have to see if I can find it. I'd uploaded a photo of my mom and dad's wedding reception, and my mom is cutting their wedding cake. And let's just say that it was frightening. Now, some of them have been very sweet. Anytime that you have, children and puppies and kittens, and, those are all good. But some of them were a little scary. But MyHeritage did have one kind of cool announcement, and it's something that they're calling Cousin Finder. And when I first heard about this, it's like, okay, that doesn't sound all that great, until I read a little bit more about what it is that they're doing. So Cousin Finder, let's say that you have a tree on MyHeritage. And in your tree, you have you, and you have your parents and grandparents, and you have all these people that you actually descend from. Okay. Let's say that there is somebody else on MyHeritage. They also have a tree, and they also descend from some of the same people that you do. So on MyHeritage, what they're doing is comparing the people in your tree that you descend from, and let's say you have your third great grandfather in there. And let's say MyHeritage looks at somebody else's tree, and it shows that they also descend from that same third great grandfather. Same person, two different trees. Well, now MyHeritage can alert you that, hey, there's somebody else in this tree over here. It looks like they descend from this same person that you do. Now, they were very quick to add that this is not a replacement for a DNA test, but rather it is really a complement to taking a DNA test. And it can help you find some of those cousins who haven't yet tested. Of course, all of this is dependent upon whether or not your tree is accurate and whether or not their tree is accurate. So it's a good place to start, but you will obviously want to do more research. But this is another way that we can find some people that we are cousins with. And it isn't just looking at random people in the tree, it's really honing in on those people that you descend from. So it's not going to say, oh, your aunt's husband's sister's brother's third cousin's wife is also in this tree over here. No, it's looking at the people you are related to by blood. So that's where those matches are coming in. on MyHeritage's new cousin finder. Yeah, Andrea says that I've used Cousin Finder who was not in DNA. I found a source from outside of the USA. Very cool. Yeah, it's another way that we can make connections. So another way that we can do that. That'll be cool to see as more people use that, what discoveries are made. Speaking of discoveries, I meant to mention this earlier. So the theme of this year's RootsTech, now let me get back here. So the theme of this year's RootsTech was, what discoveries are you going to make, or what will you discover? Something like that. Well, I have to say, I made a discovery while I was out there. I discovered, is that not the cutest little llama ever? I mean, I saw her and it's like, yeah, she has to go home with me. Little llama. So that's what I discovered at RootsTech. I discovered the RootsTech llama. All right, enough silliness. But you know, if you can't have fun with it, why bother? All right, so there was MyHeritage and the cousin finder. Let's take a look at the other big sponsor of RootsTech this year. And this is a company that's kind of flying a little under the radar, but I really recommend that you keep your eye out for them. And it's a company called Storied, storied.com. Now they have access to, lots of newspapers, especially in the US. And they have the US Census like, just about everybody and their brother does. Storied, and they've been around for a couple of years, and their product is really maturing. In terms of being able to take those stories that you find in newspapers, the stories that you can tease out of census records, and adding your own stories to it. Their generative AI has really come a long way to help you write, record more engaging stories. And there are a lot of companies out there right now doing this of, just, type in the basic facts and we'll make this story for you. I've really been impressed with how Storied handles it. They also give you the option of creating a actual book, a physical book. Now, the physical books, you can have a couple of pictures and you have the story, but then there's also a QR code where readers can access all of the other photos and the movies and the sound files that you uploaded as part of that particular story. Now, I was lucky enough, since I was at RootsTech in person, they gave away a book to every, the ability to make a book to everyone at RootsTech for free. They had, I believe it was a 50% off coupon. I don't know if that's still available. I meant to look for that before I started this live stream and kind of ran out of time. But you might want to go over to rootstech.org, go into the virtual expo hall, which I believe is still open, and see, because I know that some companies still have some of their discounts still available, even though RootsTech is over. So, yeah, and they also had, I did the same thing, Karen. They also have this really neat set. I don't have it, it's not where I can grab it, but they also have a set of kind of like, they look like playing cards or index cards with different prompts to get you started recording your story. And those of you who have followed me for any length of time, you know that I am all about recording the stories, that we don't need necessarily to write this 500-page book about our families. A couple paragraphs of a really cool story or a really sweet memory can do just as much to preserve our family history. So that is something really, that is something to check out. I see we do have some questions. So let me go back and see if I can pull some of these questions in. Jan Mack asks, how can Ancestry and MyHeritage DNA profiles be different when they are derived from the same DNA sample? Great question, Jan. So basically it comes down to how they analyze the how they analyze that data. Each DNA company has different what they call reference panels. A reference panel basically is how do you basically taking a group of people who have a known descent in a particular area. They look at their DNA and says, oh, okay, well, people who we have documented come from this area of England or this area of Germany or this area of Sweden or, wherever, that people who descend from other people from this area tend to have this, and this on their DNA. How that gets interpreted, how they decide what that looks like, that's going to vary from company to company. Think of it like crayons. A red crayon from Crayola is going to be different than the red crayon from Rose Art. Okay, they both say red, but they're not quite the same color. So it just boils down to how they are interpreting the data. And of course, you're going to have different matches because you're only going to match the people who have tested on that particular platform. So that is why it's different. Let's see, we had another question. Jenna asks, did I read Family Search is considering walking back their one tree? Am I starting a rumor here? No, Jenna, you are not. What Jenna's referring to is, so on Family Search, and a lot of people really get hung up on this, the family tree on Family Search is a one collaborative tree. You don't have, there is no Amy's tree on Family Search. There's no Jenna's tree on Family Search. When you contribute to the Family Search family tree, you are contributing to one great big tree, which has its pluses and its minuses. But one thing that Family Search is looking at implementing, and I don't have a timetable for when this is going to be widely available, but it's going to be that, yes, you could have Amy's tree. You could have Jenna's tree. You could have Caitlin's tree and Karen's tree and Tom's tree and Joseph's tree. And those individual trees would not be editable by anyone else, kind of like we have the trees on Ancestry. So that could give users, when it becomes available, that really could give users the best of both worlds, that you're making your tree publicly available, plus it's not going to be behind a paywall, but you would still have the security, I guess you would say, of nobody would be able to go in and change that information like they can on the big tree on Family Search. So no, Jenna, you are not starting any rumors, but the big tree is not going anywhere. The big Family Search family tree, it's still staying there, but they are going to be adding this additional component to it, that they will have this other section. Stephanie asks, and hello, Kira from California. Stephanie asks, I heard Ancestry was going to offer face recognition now. Did you hear anything about this? Yeah, just in passing, No specifics yet. And it was a little bit confusing as to whether it was just going to look at facial recognition in your tree, which kind of seems pointless, or if it was going to go out and look at other publicly available at images that are in publicly available trees. So I think it's the second. I think that they're going to be looking at other trees as well. Hello, Marlene from Crown Point, Indiana. Let's see. Scrolling down through here. A lot of good questions tonight. I'm presuming that this is in regard to the family search, family trees. Once they start giving the ability for individual trees, how do you think documents and files might be added if there are other trees? I would think that it would work the same that it does now, that you can go in and attach directly either from Family Search or that you could add your own sources. And that's something that a lot of people forget that you can do on the Family Search family tree. It doesn't all have to be sources that are on Family Search. You can add links and documents. You can add just a text citation for something that is not on Family Search. So it isn't all Family Search all the time. But yeah, I suspect that that will work very similar. Yeah, this is kind of the big question, isn't it, Don? What about all the AI discussion at RootsTech? All AI, all the time. AI is not going anywhere. How do I want to say this? I think that some AI applications out there aren't all that useful, and they almost feel more like party tricks. On the other hand, there are some really cool, legitimate applications for AI. I have not had a chance to watch all of the AI sessions that I wanted to, either while I was at RootsTech. I haven't been able to catch up on all of them since I've been back. There were just too many of them. I was heartened to see that there is starting to become more awareness and more recognition paid to what are the ethics of some of the AI that we are using. How ethical is it to train AI on information about living people? How ethical is it to train something on something that was never meant to be read outside of a family? So more discussions about that. I welcome those discussions, and I think that it's good that we're having them now while AI is still very much in its infancy. So I think that we can get a good, hopefully get a good handle on that. And it's going to be something that's going to be difficult to do as AI is advancing so quickly, and we're finding more and more ways to apply it. How do we keep the ethics up to date with that? So definitely something to keep an eye on. Hello, Kimberly Ann. Good to see you again. Says she met me Wednesday at RootsTech. Eileen says, I have a question. Years ago, when they used horsetail or horsehair for stitches when someone had an injury, can that change a person's DNA? Not that I know of. I wouldn't think so, because the hair shaft does not have DNA in it. You need to have the follicle. So yeah, I would not think that horsehair as stitches, that doesn't sound very sanitary. Yeah, and Karen says, love the AI for writing. Use it as your editor, not writing for you, but checking your work and being an assistant. It was fascinating. Yeah, and that's really where that's the space where I really live with AI, is I don't want AI to create something. I want AI to assist me. I saw a really great meme, it's been several weeks ago. It says, I don't want AI to do art so I can do the dishes. I want AI to do the dishes so I can go create art. And I think that that's really a great place for AI. Let's give AI the jobs that we don't want to do. Let's give AI sort of the grunt work of transforming data. So you've got this huge, ugly data set. Let's get AI to normalize that data so we can work with it. Let's get AI to, if you have 500 pages of letters or 500 pages of a journal that your ancestor kept, yeah, you can type it all out yourself to transcribe it, but why not send it through AI, a good handwriting recognition program, as a first pass? Yeah, you're still going to have to do some editing, but you know what? You would have to be editing your own work anyway. So, let's give AI the job of the heavy lifting like that. Leave the creativity to us. Leave the analysis to us. Someone asked me not too long ago what I thought about the future of blogging with the advent of AI. When you can just go into ChatGPT or Claude or any of the other ones, put in your prompt, and you can get a lovely blog post. You totally can. But I think as we start seeing more content created that way, it's going to be even more important that what we have out there has our own voice. Yeah, AI can mimic, but AI really is autocomplete on steroids. It isn't going to give your sense of humor. It isn't going to give your turn of a phrase. It isn't going to give you. So I think for anybody who is thinking about blogging or doing whatever, and you're like, well, I guess I missed that boat because AI has taken over. I think the time is going to come sooner rather than later that people are going to be craving the authentic human voice. And I mean that both in terms of voice and in terms of what we're writing, the voice we use when we write. So that's just Amy's take on AI and where it fits in the landscape today. Oh my goodness. Jenna says, stop making sense, Amy. Never. Okay, let's see what we have. Yeah, Karen says, I want to be the writer, creator, and thinker. I just want to use it wisely. Yeah, I think that it can be a great assistant. Where I fear is that too many people are going to use it as the go-to and use it as creation from the beginning, when really starting it yourself, having that terrible first draft or having that, just skeleton of an outline, and using AI to help rather than just create all from scratch. This one I don't know. Tanis or Tony's, I'm sorry. I'm haphazardly working on my genealogy. Did Family Search change its name at some point? My app now says Family Tree. I think they just changed the logo of what it looks like on the app. I'm feeling the need to get started again, but not sure where to start. Hey, you're here on YouTube. Great place to start, actually. My advice to anybody who is first getting started or they're getting started again, start with yourself. Don't feel like you have to go back, 400 years or anything. Enjoy the process of going generation by generation. And if you are fortunate enough that you still have living family members of either an older generation or even in your generation, maybe you have siblings or cousins, they're still on your generation, talk to them. Those stories that they have, you're not going to find those in a database. You're not going to go onto Ancestry and find the story of how I'm not going to go onto Ancestry and find the story of how my dad was teaching his younger brother how to drive. And they're driving down this country road, and Dad turns to my uncle and says, "Okay, turn right up here." Well, apparently my uncle didn't know that you really should hit the brakes a little bit before you try to make a turn. Yeah, they're lucky that they're both still here. Well, actually, they're not both still here, but they made it through that accident. So now I'm here. It worked out well for me. So you're not going to find things like that on Ancestry. You're not going to find things like that in Family Search or MyHeritage. You're only going to find them with your family. And thinking as someone who is finding herself really with only two people in her family in the older generation, my mom and an aunt. So now I'm pretty close to being the oldest generation. For those of you who find yourself in a situation like me, reach out to the cousins, even the younger cousins. I'm the youngest of the grandchildren on my dad's side. I had a different relationship with my grandmother than, say, my oldest cousins did. Just a matter of where she was in life when, we were spending a lot of time with her. So reach out to those other family members, get the stories. That's the part that you're not going to be able to find on Ancestry. All right. Yeah, I agree, Karen. I also feel sorry for teachers having to figure out AI with their students. Let's see, are there any other big questions? Yeah, Joshua shared the link to the Guiding Principles for Responsible AI in Genealogy, written by Stephen Little, who's just a fabulous person. He and some others wrote these guiding principles for the responsible use of AI and genealogy. Definitely worth taking a look at there. All right. Well, those are really all of the big announcements that we had at RootsTech. Again, if any of you are interested in some personalized genealogy assistance, I encourage you to take a look at my membership at Generations Connection. Link is down in the description. I think we also have the link in the comments. And if you are interested in me doing a video comparing and talking about the new Ancestry networks and some possible other things that you could use for that same purpose, let me know. And if there's enough interest, I will go ahead and make a video on that. All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining me, whether you're watching this live or you're watching later on the replay. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate your support. It was great meeting so many of you last week out in Salt Lake at RootsTech, and looking forward to seeing all of you probably online. All right, everyone, make some great discoveries in your family tree and take care. Bye-bye.